Good morning, world.
Good morning, Michigan, and all the boats in the lakes. It's Michael Patrick Shields with your Thursday morning. Hello, if you're listening in Mount Pleasant, Petoskey, Traverse City, Hastings, Lansing, Saginaw, Manistee, Grand Rapids, Kalamazoo, Ludington, or Muskegon. We're very pleased to have you with us on this Veterans Day. And in 1 hour from right now, the best way that I can think of to remember Veterans Day is to speak to a veteran, and we are going to speak with Mr. Richard Thielen. He's a World War II Navy veteran, and if you have kids who are going to school, you might want to keep them home for this segment. You might want to turn on your television to Fox 47 if you're in the Lansing area, or listen closely, because Richard Thielen has an amazing story to tell. I'm talking about the kind of story that you will pull up a chair for and you'll want to hear over and over again on our podcasts at MichiganTalkNetwork.com. It was July 30th, 1945, just after midnight in the Philippine Sea, that the USS Indianapolis was torpedoed by a Japanese submarine. That USS Indianapolis sunk in 12 minutes. There were 1,196 men on board. 300 of them in 12 minutes went down with the ship. The rest, 900 U.S. Navy sailors, were left floating in shark-infested waters with no lifeboats, no food, and no water for 4 days. By the time the survivors were spotted, 316 men were still alive in the water, and Richard Thielen was one of them. He will be with us in our studio in just over an hour from right now. Coming up shortly, we will also talk about the fact that Governor Granholm is going to sign, after all, the Sunday liquor sales law. Remember about a month ago when the bill passed the House and the Senate, went to the governor's desk? We talked to her on this program. And she said, yeah, I know, MPS, Michael Patrick Shields there. You want to have a mimosa or a Bloody Mary in the morning on Sunday. But I can't sign this because there are some technicalities that aren't suitable. Well, they went back, they modified the bill, and it's going back to the governor's desk, and she will sign it. So there's one thing we're going to get done in the lame duck session. We'll be able to have booze on Sunday mornings. And in just a couple of minutes, we'll talk with Lance Buoniemi, the executive director of the Michigan Licensed Beverage Association, and find out how it all works and what it means to you and me, and what it means to business in Michigan. And also, there are some holiday provisions in there, too, if I'm not mistaken. And aren't some of the bars able to stay open till 4? That's what we're going to find out. And it'll happen at the stroke of a pen from the governor. Let's keep an eye on your money, too, for just a moment here. Do you know there's a presidential commission, and they're charged with finding ways to cut the federal budget deficit? If they have their way, homeowners like you will lose the income tax deduction for mortgage interest. And if they have their way, Social Security retirement could be moved up to age 68, and then even further up to 69. How would you like that? Other budget balancing moves would include changing the corporate tax base rate and cuts in defense spending. Did you ever think in your lifetime you would hear about cuts in defense spending in this dangerous world in which we live? Well, that's what this presidential commission is talking about doing. Now, I mentioned earlier, if you tuned in, that Amazon.com has had to stop selling a controversial book. Believe it or not, this book was in Kindle's top 100 paid bestsellers. More than 2,000 users of Amazon posted comments on websites about the decision to sell the book. Do you know what it's called? The Pedophile's Guide to Love and Pleasure, a Child Lover's Code of Conduct. Yeah, Amanda Wall says, ugh. You must be saying that too. This book was called The Pedophile's Guide to Love and Pleasure, a Child Lover's Code of Conduct. And that book was in the top 100 on Amazon.com. Top 100. Who's buying that book? And Amazon.com said, we're not going to sell that anymore. And they pulled it off. Now, I suppose there's somebody somewhere listening saying, well, that's censorship. You should have the right to sell and publish anything you want. But you don't have to sell it, I guess, if you don't want to. And that's what's happening. One of the busiest travel days of the year at the nation's airport could get even busier. There's a protest being planned. It's called the National Opt-Out Day. And what they want to do is they want people to opt out of the TSA pat-down procedures. They have the X-ray body scanners and so forth, but they don't like the idea of being touched. They think it's too invasive for people to put their hands on your hips and your shoulders and your thighs and wherever else they put your hands when you do a TSA scanning. So they're going to have a November 4th sort of protest. And I don't know what that means. You buy an airline ticket, you go get in line saying, you can't touch me. And what happens? There'll be a big, that's how you get attention with a protest, I guess. There'll be a big backup at the security counter. Conan O'Brien, I've been talking about him because he started his new late night show on Monday, and he beat Jay Leno in The Tonight Show, the show he was kicked off originally after Jay Leno wanted his job back. Well, his ratings fell. And that's typical. First night, people are interested. They like to have a look-see, and he had big ratings, and he beat Jay Leno and beat The Tonight Show. But the dip came on Tuesday, and even though they had Tom Hanks. So we'll see how it does in the long run. But we keep track of Conan O'Brien around these parts, and The Tonight Show especially, because we're fans of Johnny Carson and The Tonight Show. Michigan, third worst in the nation for foreclosures. 1 out of every 170 homes has faced a legal proceeding. Sobering. Very sobering. Down the street, the state capitol, both chambers have stayed consistent with the theme. They're going to finish the business of the 95th legislature by December 2nd. And they stayed true to the traditional 2-week hunting and Thanksgiving break. So that's what's going on with the lame duck legislators are still having their little hunting trip and Thanksgiving week, and then they're going to come back and do about 7 more days is what we understand. They did talk yesterday about a ballot proposal that would ask voters to change the term limits law. You know, a lot of the problems in Lansing and across the state of Michigan with our lawmakers, some people are pointing the fingers at term limits, saying right when the legislators get enough experience, they have to leave. So they wanted to make a deal where the lawmakers can serve a combined 14 years. In other words, you can be in the House for X number and you can be in the Senate for X number, so 14 years total. But the measure wasn't taken up on the House floor. There weren't enough votes to pass it, so the idea of term limits being adjusted is in total limbo right now. And some people say that's a vital thing, but it's not going to be easy to do. Our buddy, State Representative Chuck Moss, the Republican from Birmingham, appears to be in line to be the next House Appropriations Committee chair. That is a very big and influential position for Chuck Moss, who has guest hosted this program for me from time to time. Did you know that patients' doctor shop? I didn't know about this. The practice of visiting multiple doctors so you can get prescription painkillers and abuse them or sell them. Well, there's a possibility now of a law. It would be 90 days in jail and a $500 misdemeanor if they catch you getting prescriptions from more than one doctor for the same thing within a certain amount of time. We're going to reach out to Kristen Kraft from Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan. They're in support, obviously, of those bills. Rick Snyder's not going to live in the governor's residence. He's going to stay in Ann Arbor, and there might be times when there's heavy snow or bad weather that he'll put his feet up there in the governor's residence there on Moores River Drive back in there on Oxford Court along the river. But for the most part, he's going to be living in Ann Arbor. Superior Township is actually where Rick Snyder lives. A West Michigan woman is out of a job because she put a posting on Facebook about a coworker. She gave her name as Jessica. She lost her job with the Baker House Publishing Group after calling a coworker a liar online. The coworker went and printed out the Facebook post, showed it to the boss, and she was fired a few weeks later. You think that's Jake? That's a little bit of a censorship too, isn't it? You called someone a liar in this company, you're fired. Do you think that's okay? 888-900-9966. 888-900-9966 is the number to call. Shouldn't what you put on Facebook be exempt from what happens at work? Isn't it any different than if you're standing on the street and you tell someone, hey, you're a liar, and they go tell the boss, she called me a liar, and the boss says, really, you're fired? Is it any different on Facebook than it is if you say it? Or is it because you're saying it in front of a bunch of people? If you stand up in the lunchroom and say Susie's a liar, does the boss fire you for that? The audit manager for the Michigan Department of Treasury has been soliciting teen girls online while on the job. John Allen Schneider was arrested yesterday for using a computer at the state office to entice young girls. He's 37 years old from Rockford, and he posed as a 24-year-old man on his MySpace account and tried to lure some young girls. The Dow yesterday gained 10 points. The NASDAQ was up 5, and the S&P up 16. Gary Austin, what story will you be following for us in the newsroom this morning?
MPS health issues, always vital. Listen to this. The Obama administration wants a series of new warnings on cigarette packs that include disturbing pictures. Now, these include pictures of an apparent corpse, a person lying in a coffin, and a graphic showing a pack of smokes, followed by an equal sign, and then a tombstone.
Great. Something is going to happen Friday in the state capitol that has never happened before. When we come back, I'll tell you exactly what that is. It's Michael Patrick Shields all across the state of Michigan. Veterans Day, and 1 hour from now, Richard Thielen, who survived being sunk on the USS Indianapolis in that very famous tragedy in the Philippine Sea. He was a survivor, spent 4 days with sharks, no food and water in the ocean. That was in 1945, just after midnight. And we'll talk with him live in studio here. Veterans Day. Now, there are plenty of Veterans Day activities today. At 7 o'clock tonight in downtown Grand Rapids, there will be the Veterans Day Parade. Also, downtown on Fulton in Veterans Park today, there'll be a ceremony by the American Legion at 11 o'clock. Davenport University is honoring veterans as well. In fact, they're going to show the movie Stars and Stripes. Actually, it's an event at 6 o'clock. At 6:30, they're going to show the movie Stripes with Bill Murray at Davenport University. Bay City Midland Street merchants will be donating $1 per meal and send Santa to the troops with that. And Flint, there'll be a Veterans Day celebration. A motorcade leaves City Hall at 11 a.m., and there's a free luncheon program for military veterans. Traverse City, where we're also heard, the Senior Center will be honoring veterans at a Veterans Dinner Dance. That's at the Elks Club tonight. And also, Veterans Day observance is planned for 6 o'clock Thursday in the Grand Traverse Area Veterans Memorial Park. That's near Elmwood Street. In Kalamazoo, where we're heard on radio station WKMI, Fort Custer National Ceremony will be there. There'll be a flyover of the 127th Air National Guard from Selfridge Air Base. And the Ecumenical Center will have a potluck at 11:30 this morning for Veterans Day. In Muskegon, where we're also heard, the Spring Lake District Library will be hearing from Grand Valley State University history professor James Smither. That is at 10 a.m. this morning, and at 10:30 at the American Legion Post, the public can bring worn-out flags for proper disposal after a ceremony. There'll be an event at 11 a.m. at Fruitport Veterans Memorial Park. And if you go on Google, you can find all of these events and find a way to honor a veteran on this Veterans Day. It's 25 minutes after the hour. In fact, joining us right now on the air is Dr. Jacques Donder, a chief psychologist at Mary Free Bred Rehabilitation Hospital. And apparently, as I understand it, Afghanistan and Iraq war veterans with traumatic brain injuries can get free comprehensive rehabilitation in Grand Rapids through a program funded by the Department of Defense. Thank you for that, and good morning.
Good morning.
When we talk next hour with somebody like Richard Thielen, who it was a long time ago, mind you, but maybe it seems like yesterday to him, having been in a ship sinking like that, 4 days in the water with sharks and watching death all around him, how does somebody like that adjust to coming back to normal life?
Part of the adjustment involves that the community understands what they're going through. 40, 50 years ago, people didn't talk about these kinds of things. Now, a lot of people are becoming more aware that traumatic brain injury and adjustment disorders like post-traumatic stress are the signature injuries of these wars, and that they really need to be taken seriously, that these troops deserve our best, and they need our help to readjust and get back to civilian society.
How can people connect with the Wounded Warriors program?
It's fairly easy. We have a website as well as a toll-free number. The website is www.maryfreebed, it's all one word, maryfreebed.com/Wounded Warriors. And the toll-free number is 888-736-0208.
Thank you very much, and happy Veterans Day to you. It's maryfreebread.com/Wounded Warriors at 26 minutes after the hour. It's Michael Patrick Shields with you. I promised that Lance Bieniemy would join us. He's nice enough to do that early this morning, the executive director of the Michigan Licensed Beverage Association. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Michael Patrick. Thanks for having me on.
You cracked one open yet today?
Not quite yet.
Okay, we'll hold off a little bit then. But it looks like we're going to get that victory we've all been waiting for. The governor is apparently going to sign the bill. It's been modified after she initially vetoed it a couple of weeks ago. That will allow for Sunday liquor sales. Do you know first when she will sign it? And give us the particulars. What does it all mean?
Yeah, we're not sure exactly when she signed it. She'll sign it, but we're very encouraged that she has indicated that she will this time. And there were a few stipulations that she had concerns with in the original piece of legislation, and the legislature was able to work out some of those details and remove them from the legislation so it was more amenable for the governor to sign. But this will allow licensees to get an additional permit on Sunday mornings if, in fact, they think that they have customers that would like to purchase and consume alcohol before noon on Sundays, which is currently prohibited.
How much will that license cost?
The license will be $160 annual, and it will be an optional permit for licensees. So if there's a bar or restaurant or a party store that doesn't believe that they have any customers that would like to, purchase or consume alcohol before noon on Sundays, they simply do not have to purchase the permit.
Okay, well, if you get one good Lions Sunday, you pay for the permit, I would think, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We think that there's going to be a variety of licensees that will take advantage of this license. They may have a popular golf outing a couple times a year at a golf course that they can sell alcohol before noon. So we think a lot of different types of establishments will take advantage of this.
Are holidays accounted for too? Isn't there something in there about Christmas?
Yes, currently before the legislation will be signed into law, there is a prohibition on alcohol sales from 9 p.m. on Christmas Eve, extending all through Christmas Day, and then starting back up on the 26th. A lot of our UP members have been complaining that a lot of their customers travel to Wisconsin or travel to some of the Native American casinos and will drink and consume alcohol on Christmas Day. So the legislature was able to remove that prohibition starting at midnight on Christmas Eve. Alcohol sales must stop, and then at noon on Christmas Day they can continue.
Do you have to pay the license for that?
No, that's just an automatic removal of the prohibition. So that will happen for every licensee this year.
Is there any talk in there about bars staying open till 4 a.m., or is that a separate matter?
That's a completely separate matter. We've continued to have conversations with the legislature on that. It's a little bit more controversial. I think our association would like to do a little bit more educating on the matter to some senators and reps, and hopefully in the new legislative cycle we can get that rolling.
Lance Bieniemy is the executive director of the Michigan Licensed Beverage Association. The story is this morning that the governor will sign it'll be a law when she signs it that allows for a license for Sunday morning liquor sales before noon. And so your choice is going to be on a Sunday morning a Bloody Mary or a mimosa?
I'm going to have a Bloody Mary.
Okay.
It won't be at 7 a.m.
1 minute after 7. I would think hotels, for instance, they would be all into getting this license, right?
Yeah, I just think it's going to be, dependent on their customer base, but a variety of places. I know, a good place down here in East Lansing, I know Beggar's Banquet does a wonderful brunch on Sunday mornings, and their customers that are there before noon would, maybe like to have a Bloody Mary or also with their brunch.
Well, next week we'll be having our Beaujolais Nouveau show, and that's a certain sign of the holidays. We taste the Beaujolais right on this program with experts who can tell us what it's all about. It comes from France, and the first second it's available, we have it here on the program because it's a harbinger of the holidays. And so how soon, since the holidays are coming, would the Sunday morning liquor sales go into effect?
Well, the law states that it should go into effect on December 1st, and we're hopeful that the Liquor Control Commission will get their permit process together so licensees can take advantage right on that December 1st date.
All right. Thank you very much, and congratulations are in order, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you, Michael Patrick.
Cheers to Lance Bieniemy, the executive director of the Michigan Licensed Beverage Association. Now that we're all happy about that, I'm going to bring you some sobering news. And to join us for this news, Kim LaForette, real estate executive from Coldwell Banker, Hubbell Briarwood. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Michael.
I want to frighten you a little bit. Are you ready for that?
Well, what else at 6:30 in the morning?
There's a presidential commission, and they're looking for ways to cut the federal budget deficit. And one of the ways that they're going to probably recommend is that homeowners lose the income tax deduction for mortgage interest. What do you make of that?
Well, it's old news, actually, on that particular front, because they've been trying to do that for years. And the National Association of Realtors has been very, very strong in trying to protect that interest deduction for obvious reasons.
Yeah, I would think so. Also, the other startling thing that they want to do is maybe move up Social Security to age 68 and then eventually to age 69. I'm not going to ask a lady her age, but there are going to be a lot of people upset about that.
Yes, that's going to be difficult for some people to swallow. I think that people realize that reform needs to be done, and there's going to be a lot of things that are going to have to change, and it's not business as usual. We're all going to have to get used to a whole new way of doing things, whether we like it or not, obviously.
And I hate to even say this on Veterans Day, but one of the other recommendations, this is a presidential commission, mind you, is to cut defense spending. Now, this is all coming to President Obama's desk on December 1st. And I'd be very curious to see if he wants his toe in the water when it comes to defense spending. The other thing I wanted to mention to you real quickly, Kim LaForette from Coldwell Banker, Hubbell Briarwood, is that Michigan, third worst in the nation for foreclosures right now. That's 1 out of every 170 homes is facing a legal proceeding. So that means, by the time you drive from your house to this studio, or certainly between our markets in Grand Rapids and Saginaw, Mount Pleasant, and so forth, you're passing a house that's in foreclosure.
Definitely.
Startling.
You see it more and more, and it is disheartening. Obviously, that there's people that are trying to do the right thing, and the mortgage companies right now, just the ineptitude right now of what's happening with these mortgage companies, are forcing some people into foreclosure. And obviously, there's always going to be some foreclosures, but the way that things are going right now is disheartening. And I guess the way that I get through it each day is I just get up and just do what I can do for the clients that I'm working for.
Have you sold a house this week?
Oh, yeah, we've sold 2 this week.
Oh, congratulations. That's a pretty good week, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Rick Snyder says he's not going to live in the governor's mansion. He's going to stay at home in Ann Arbor and commute back and forth. Should we sell the governor's mansion?
Might not be a bad idea, but I don't know how much we would get for it.
I don't know. It's got pretty good. It's over there near the Country Club of Lansing on the river on Moores River Drive, Oxford Court there. They have a nice security wall and a river in the back. And, it's a little bit, how would you say, it's not very necessarily cozy because it's used for lots of events and things like that if you've ever been inside there. It's a little bit cold because it's meant really for entertaining and that sort of thing. But maybe we should have a governor's apartment instead of a governor's mansion. Kim LaForette, Coldwell Banker, Hubbell Briarwood. When we come back, we're going to get the reaction from our incoming Attorney General on that Facebook book and the lady that got fired for being on Facebook, and also on Amazon.com, that child pedophilia book. What would our Attorney General, Bill Schuette, say about that? You'll find out in 4 minutes. Veterans Day 2010. And in about half an hour from now, we will talk with a man who survived the worst naval disaster in U.S. history. Richard Thielen, from right here in Michigan, was on board the USS Indianapolis when it was torpedoed by a Japanese submarine in the Philippine Sea. That boat sank in 12 minutes. There were 1,196 men on board. 300 simply went down with the ship. The rest of them, 900 of them or so, were left floating in shark-infested waters. No lifeboats, no food, no water. And 4 days later, when they were finally rescued, only 316 men were still alive. Richard Thielen was one of them, and he will be with us on this program in this studio coming up in about 30 minutes from right now. You won't want to miss that interview. The incoming Attorney General of the state of Michigan, Bill Schuette, is with us this morning. Congratulations, first of all, on your victory, and very soon it will be Schuette on duty.
Well, thanks very, very much, Michael Patrick. You bet. We had a great evening last week, but more so an important time for Michigan, and now the real work begins, because it's all about performance. It has to be a Michigan that is performance-driven and solutions and accomplishing things. This was a big job interview. Now everyone needs to get to work.
Wanted to ask you a couple of matters that I thought would
I
be...
got a question for you before we go, too. So
Yeah?
but you first.
Okay, I'll do it. Amazon.com has decided to stop selling a controversial book. Can you believe this? This book was in the top 100 paid bestsellers on Kindle. That means a lot of people were buying this book. Do you know what it was called? The Pedophile's Guide to Love and Pleasure, A Child Lover's Code of Conduct. Isn't it scary to you, as the incoming Attorney General, that book was so popular it was in the top 100 on Kindle?
Well, you know, it just shocks me sometimes the muck and the nonsense and just the stuff that you know, there needs to be a real kind of a cleansing of the culture where
Jeez.
there's respect and decency and regard for people on all sorts of different issues. You know, folks really need to clean up their act.
I should say so. That is very startling. And then we learned that there was a fellow, the audit manager at the Michigan Department of Treasury, has been soliciting teenage girls online while he's on the job. His name is John Allen Schneider, arrested yesterday. Used the computer at the state office to entice young girls. He's 37 years old, from Rockford. He was posing as a 24-year-old man in an attempt to befriend the girls. So he's without his job now, and obviously very, very embarrassed. But this technology has really turned this into a different sort of world, hasn't it?
Well, you know, it has. It you know, over the years, you know, it takes, you know, different tacks in terms of whether it's stalking or internet or you know, what have you. And some of that stuff, unfortunately, you know, obviously still occurs. But it means that local law enforcement, state officials always need to be on the ready, and there are units that do just that to try to you know, weed this out.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, guys arrested, and now the justice system kicks in.
Will that be a big part of your administration as Attorney General? I know that Attorney General Cox had lots of those sort of sting operations to try to catch people who are online predators, let's call them.
And yeah, because you know, the online predators and the invasion via your computer can be, you know, just as traumatic and vicious as you know, a home invasion in a physical way. And so the whole CyberNet Crime Division that Mike Cox worked very hard on will maintain that emphasis. It's all part of, you know, my approach that public safety is first as Michigan's chief law enforcement officer. So I will work hard on that.
What was your question for me?
Do you have a book that's coming out?
You must have heard about it by now. Yeah, Invite Yourself to the Party comes out next Wednesday, in fact, just before
Christmas. Are you
Christmas.
going to do, you know, book signings, and when can I do a little interview with you talking about this?
You can come to our launch party next Wednesday night at my wife's office, Dr. Christine Teneglia. In fact, you can ride down with Keith Priddy if you want from Northwood University. He's going to be there. And I sent it. I got to get a good address for you now because you're in between gigs.
No, hey, I got it. Now, what time's that book signing again?
It's
our audience here, say it one more time.
Wednesday night from 5 till 8 at the office of Dr. Christine Teneglia. That's Okemos and Bennett Roads. And it'd be the only time you go to the dentist office to have some fun, because we're going to have live music and champagne and hors d'oeuvres and special people like you, hopefully, if you get the chance to stop by.
Well, I'm going to do my very best. I'm trying to, no pun intended, I'm trying to extract some information from you. Now, this book, in 30 seconds, because I know time is limited here, you give our listeners a snapshot of what this book will be about.
This book is called Invite Yourself to the Party, Mr. Incoming Attorney General, Attorney General-elect. And what it's about is, if you get yourself involved in the community, if you put yourself out of your comfort zone, if you just go ahead and do something. Get off the couch. Show up somewhere. Interesting things can happen in your life, and sometimes they'll be amusing. This is a very lighthearted book because sometimes it doesn't go very well, but you got to put yourself in the game, and life can be a party, and you want your life to be fun and exciting, and these are some examples of people who succeeded by showing up.
Well, again, listeners, this is called Invite Yourself to the Party by Michael Patrick Shields. It'll be available in bookstores across Michigan soon.
Okay.
Thank you. Be there. Book them. Dano. Aloha.
Thank you very much. Attorney General Bill Schuette, who, by the way, he and his wife for many, many years now have been working on the Michigan Harvest Gathering. That concludes this week. So Google it up, Michigan Harvest Gathering, and contribute if you can before Thanksgiving to help lots of needy families across the state of Michigan. 14 before the hour. We're going to Turkeyville when we come back. What's in Turkeyville? Well, stay tuned and find out. Veterans Day 2010. And coming up next hour, Congressman Pete Hoekstra from West Michigan from the Intelligence Committee, the Republican who is serving his last month and a half or so in the United States House of Representatives. There was some talk yesterday that he may be in the running to be the next party chair for the Michigan GOP, the Michigan Republican Party. We will ask Congressman Hoekstra if he considers himself a candidate. And we'll talk with him, too, a little bit about the latest security threat, bombs in cargo on airplanes. For instance, they put some gunpowder and a makeshift bomb in a printer and put it on an airplane recently, and so printers can't be taken on aircraft anymore. We'll talk to him about that as well, and hopefully he knows some secrets. After all, he is on the Intelligence Committee. There is an event in Lansing that is going to happen at the state capitol that has never happened before. Winners of Mega Millions and Powerball jackpots are going to claim their prizes Friday afternoon at the lottery headquarters. Never before in the state of Michigan have two winners claim major jackpots at the same time, according to lottery officials. It's always nice when these multi-state lotteries are won by somebody here in our state. And so Saturday's Powerball ticket was worth $128.6 million. That was sold at the Uptown Bookstore in Highland Park. That's an adult entertainment store, by the way. So maybe the man presumes to be anonymous. I don't know. But imagine how he told his wife, hey, I just won the lottery, and I bought it at an adult bookstore. You've maybe been reading about it in the news. Or maybe he just took the ticket and split. Anyway, Friday, that award will be granted. And then on October 29th at the Grain and Grape in Gladstone in the Upper Peninsula, a Mega Millions ticket worth $141 million was sold. And let's hope the guy with all that cash takes it over to Firekeepers Casino and makes something out of it in Battle Creek, right? We never let the birthday of a beautiful woman pass without taking note. Demi Moore is 48 today. Probably Striptease is the movie you'll remember her in, or G.I. Jane, Indecent Proposal, Charlie's Angels. Happy birthday, darling, to Demi Moore. And Callista Flockhart is 46. Ally McBeal. And is she married or just dating Harrison Ford? I can't keep track of these Hollywood starlets. Tonight, we've got a football game, NFL football on the tube. You have one of these Thursday night affairs. It'll be 2 6-2 teams, the Baltimore Ravens and the Atlanta Falcons. That should be a really good game. The Falcons lead the NFC South, and they're 4-0 at home, and the game will be in Atlanta. Lions head coach Jim Schwartz says that Sean Hill is going to be the team's starting quarterback against the Buffalo Bills this weekend. Matthew Stafford out indefinitely, possibly for the rest of the season with a separated shoulder. And Hill's been sidelined, too. He's recovering from a broken left forearm. That was only 3 weeks ago. And get this, he's going to play with a cast in the Lions game this weekend. Michigan State basketball coach Tom Izzo says he's very pleased with his recruiting class so far. Yesterday, Izzo announced the signing of 4 highly sought-after high schoolers. They're going to join the Spartans next fall. Dwayne Anderson from Sutton's Bay, Travis Trice from Huber Heights, Ohio, is going to be there too. Brandon Dawson from Indiana, and from Detroit Southeastern, Brandon Kearney are coming to Michigan State, and that is fantastic news. By the way, I was at L&L grocery store yesterday, and I was picking up some steaks for dinner and some potatoes and so forth. And a young high school kid in a Okemos High School sports shirt, looked like a football jersey, was walking along with his mother. And I passed him in the aisle, and he said, "Hey, aren't you that guy on the radio?" He said, "I watch you every morning before I go to school. I like the show." I thought that was so sweet, and I said, "Well, thank you very much. That's nice of you. What time do you go to school?" He says, "I go about 7:30. He said, "So I can't watch the whole show, but I watch as much as I can." And I thought, how terrific. So hello to everybody at Okemos High School and that nice young gentleman who invited himself to the party yesterday by spotting me in the grocery store and having the courtesy to say hello and speak so nicely. You know, sometimes people are shy and they don't want to say hello and that kind of thing. And he spoke right up. So it was very nice to meet you if you're watching this morning, and do your best at school today. And to all of the young people who are tuned in on Fox 47 or on radio stations all across the state this morning. Gladys Shields is my mother. She made her way to the Marshall area yesterday to go to Turkeyville. It's an annual tradition for my mother, who sometimes says I'm a turkey. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
What'd you do at Turkeyville?
Oh, we had a wonderful turkey dinner, and we went to all the gift shops, and we saw a wonderful play. It's called It's a Wonderful Life.
All right.
And it was something different. It was a live radio play. Have you ever seen anything like that?
You mean the radio? They did it like an old-time radio where they stand on stage and play the parts?
Yes, and we were the radio audience. I've never seen anything like that. It was really great.
Oh, that's pretty neat. So that's at Turkeyville. It's near Marshall. It's a sort of a Thanksgiving tradition. And I'm glad you had a good time. That was very near Firekeepers Casino, too. Were you tempted to go over and,
Yes, we were real close to it, but it was such a long day we couldn't make it there.
Well, when you eat...
The ladies are going next Wednesday.
Supposedly when you eat turkey, you get tired because of the tryptophan or whatever it is in the turkey. Did you sleep in the bus on the way home?
Oh, yes. We were all kind of tired right after we ate.
All right. This is a Thanksgiving tradition, too. My mother, Gladys Shields, is going to do her impression of the turkeys that she saw yesterday at Turkeyville. Are you ready? Let it go.
Gobble, gobble, gobble. You're crazy, Michael.
Thank you very much. I know. That's my mother. I love you. Gladys Shields, who went to Turkeyville yesterday, and you may be going there from somewhere in the state, too, as it's Thanksgiving. Coming up next hour, we are going to be joined by Congressman Pete Hoekstra from West Michigan. Is he a candidate for party chair? And also, we will remember veterans on Veterans Day in the most special way imaginable. Keep your kids near the TV and the radio and stay tuned. You don't want to miss it. It's Michael Patrick Shields on Thursday. Good morning, Michigan. A very pleasant Thursday to you, and it's Veterans Day across the United States of America. United States Congressman Pete Hoekstra, the Republican from West Michigan, is on the other end of our line. Good morning to you, sir.
Hey, good morning.
President Obama's in Korea and has already had, because of the time difference, obviously, his speech to the troops in Korea. He had a message for North Korea. You know, we obviously still have troops there guarding the border. Here's what the president said in front of those American troops in South Korea.
And in the wake of this aggression, Pyongyang should not be mistaken. The United States will never waver in our commitment to the security of the Republic of Korea. We will not waver.
You got a big cheer there for that. What are your thoughts, Congressman, on this Veterans Day?
Well, I think, the amount of time that I've spent, the opportunity to visit with our troops in Afghanistan, to visit with our troops in Iraq and other parts of the world, they are just a tremendous resource committed to this country, doing what we as political leaders, what we as a country have asked them to do. Whether they agree with the policy or the strategy or not, they are each and every day. They are heroes, at different levels, but they are heroes for what they do to protect us and keep us safe.
There is a presidential commission apparently trying to figure out ways to cut the federal budget deficit, and one of the ways that they're talking about, and they may suggest this to the president apparently on December 1st, is to cut defense spending. Does that surprise you?
No, it doesn't. I mean, it is. I think it's unrealistic to believe that we can address the financial difficulties that we face as a country, $1.2, $1.3 trillion deficits, and that we can do it all by just cutting everywhere in government but Homeland Security and national defense. Again, what we have to do is, just like in other parts of the budget, we have to take a look at perhaps reducing spending and spending the money that we are going to spend it more effectively. There are ways to do this. In education, we can do this, just get rid of No Child Left Behind. Get rid of the rules, regulations, and these types of things. I'll tell you, I would bet that every school in this state would be willing to accept 20 to 25% less in federal money from No Child Left Behind if we just got rid of the rules and regulations. It would be a great deal for everyone, and it would, most importantly, help our kids get the quality of education that they need in a classroom. I think you can do the same kinds of things in other parts of the budget, including defense.
Let's say you're the president of the United States, and on December 1st, the people who put this report together come in, and they sit down with you, and they say, well, one of the things is cut defense funding. We know where you stand on that because you just told us. And then they say, we want to do away with the homeowner's income tax deduction for mortgage interest. What do you say to that?
Well, I think you can't take any piece of this by itself. That's where you get into trouble if you say, hey, we're going to get rid of the homeowner's deduction, but we're going to lower income tax rates so that it's it's a simpler way, it's a fairer way to calculate taxes and these types of things, and the net effect will be it'll be revenue neutral, so it's not going to be a big boon to the government, that the government's going to be getting all of this money in. It's maybe something you consider. I was in favor of doing something like the fair tax. The fair tax is a revolutionary tax scheme. I think it would promote economic growth, but a lot of, there'd be a lot of changes, and people who have carve-outs in the current tax code wouldn't like it. But bottom line, it would generate economic growth and economic activity. We've got to be willing to take bold steps like that look at some of the things that we call sacred cows and say, you know what, it's not sacred anymore. We're going to revise it and change it.
Even the age for Social Security retirement, because this commission is going to tell the president apparently that we should bump it up to age 68 and then eventually to age 69.
Absolutely. I mean, remember, Social Security, the Social Security was put in place at a time where you could start collecting Social Security when you were 65. The average life expectancy was 62 or 63. The average life expectancy now has moved well into the 70s, and we've moved the retirement age. We're in the process of moving the retirement age all the way up to 67. No, we ought to be taking a look at changing retirement ages, the retirement age in Social Security and other parts of Social Security. Bottom line is, Michael Patrick, the money is not there. If we don't make these kinds of changes, one of these days we're going to run out of money, and there will be no retirement anymore because or significantly reduced benefits because there's just not enough money there. We have to make these changes to make these programs sustainable.
You serve on the Intelligence Committee. Has anybody figured out what that missile was that was shot off of the west coast of the United States the other day? Was it an airplane? Was it a rocket? Did it come from a submarine? What do you know?
I've been asking. All the sensors were on. And the sensors indicate that there was no missile coming out of the Pacific Ocean. It looks like it was one of these quirks of photography, that it was probably the contrail of a jet. But no, it appears that there was no missile, and this is coming from the intel community. This is coming from the Department of Defense. All the people who really should know are saying there was no missile there.
Are you interested in the job of Michigan Republican Party chair?
No.
You're not? Okay, because your name's been bandied about a bit.
No, it has been, and a number of people have approached me for that position, but I think this is one really where the governor has to put in place someone that he feels comfortable with in that role, and I really do think that this is Rick's call, and he hasn't called. I think the only thing that would make sense if Rick Snyder was bantering my name about, his team called and said, Pete, we'd like you to do this, then you might take a look at it. But I think this is really, Rick needs someone, Randy Richardville, Jay Spolger, they need someone in there that they can feel, that they feel really comfortable and confident in. The role of the state party chair is to promote and promote the Republican Party and get them ready for the next election cycle. So this really is one where the key political leaders in the state, they've got to sit down, they've got to make the choice, they've got to select who that individual is and someone that they can work with as part of a team to bring Michigan back.
All right. Well, thank you very much for that, and thanks for the time this morning. We always appreciate it. Good to talk to Congressman Pete Hoekstra from West Michigan, the Republican, who is got about a month and a couple of weeks left in office, and we'll talk more about that in the coming weeks. Thank you very much, Congressman Hoekstra. 15 minutes after the hour. It was July 30th, 1945. Just about 15 minutes after midnight, the USS Indianapolis was torpedoed by a Japanese submarine in the Philippine Sea. That ship sank in 12 minutes. There were 1,196 men on board. 300 of them, 300 souls, went down with the ship when it sank in 12 minutes. The remainder, 900 men, were left floating in shark-infested waters, no lifeboats, most with no food or water. And it was 4 days until somebody came to rescue those survivors. Those 900 men, by 4 days later, there were only 316 still alive. And one of them is sitting right across the table from me here in our Gillespie Group storefront studio. It's an honor beyond words to welcome Richard Thielen, a World War II veteran from the United States Navy and a survivor of the USS Indianapolis. Thank you for being here on this Veterans Day.
Well, thanks for asking. There's 5 things really stands out on the ship. We set a speed record between the United States and Tinian. We took the first atomic bomb delivered at Tinian, and the first time a captain had been court-martialed for loss of a ship.
Mm-hmm.
And the Navy Department told us guys we spent more time in the water in the Cape Cod life jacket in the history of the Navy and survived. And there are more men lost on that ship, which is 880 men in wartime. I know the Arizona people talked to me about that's a few hours before the war, which is 880 men, which is a lot of men. Roughly died, everybody's estimate, about 600 died in the water after the sinking. So 900 got off the ship and about 300 survived.
When we come back from this very short break, we will talk in detail about what happened on that fateful day, July 30th, 1945, with Richard Thielen, and he'll be speaking today to various groups. He's going to go and speak to a school when he leaves here, and he's very brave to do that. He'll be at a veterans event tonight as well. So stay tuned. In 4 minutes, we will have more of the inside details of what happened that day, what happened subsequently, and the life of Richard Thielen. On this Veterans Day, it's Michael Patrick Shields. You're listening on radio stations in Mount Pleasant, Petoskey, Traverse City, Hastings, Lansing, Saginaw, Manistee, Grand Rapids, Kalamazoo, Ludington, and Muskegon. My name is Michael Patrick Shields, and it's very nice to meet you. Very nice to have you with us this morning. Also, you may be watching on Fox 47 television, and you can hear this interview again at MichiganTalkNetwork.com. Share it with your friends. Forward it to them. You can connect through there. There will also be a YouTube video of the interview. MichiganTalkNetwork.com is where you find us, but stay right there. We'll be back in 4 minutes. Anchors away this morning on this Veterans Day with Richard Thielen, the World War II veteran who was on board the USS Indianapolis when just after midnight on July 30th, 1945, it was torpedoed by a Japanese submarine, and 4 days later, 316 survivors out of a total of 1,196. They spent 4 days in the water with sharks and no food and no water, and Richard Thielen is one of those survivors. How many, if you know, of the 316 men who were rescued are still alive?
55.
55.
We have a reunion every year, so that we don't know.
Where
We
do
just
you-
had one last July
Did you? Where do you have the reunion?
in Indianapolis.
I
We
see.
have a reunion since 1960. Every 5 years, now it's every 1 year because of the age of the men.
Is it difficult to talk about?
No, it's good for you.
Yeah?
Some men wouldn't come years ago because they couldn't talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
After a few reunions, they came and got it off their chest.
How old?
Years ago, I wouldn't talk about it.
You wouldn't?
No.
It took time.
Good example of that is the first book came out of Abandoned Ship in 1960. Pardon me. Came out 1958.
Mm-hmm.
My wife and I was married in 1951. 7 years of marriage, I never said a word to her about it.
Really?
When she found out, she was one mad woman. Believe me.
Yeah?
She knew through my sister that went to high school and nurses training with my sister. So she knew I was on a ship that sank. But did she know where, the name of the ship, or how long I was in the water? In 7 years, I didn't say one word to her.
Why did you decide to tell her?
When that book came out, I kind of
I see.
And from there on, it's been better.
How old were you when you were on board the ship?
I was 18 in March and went down in July.
And do you remember where you were at 12:14 a.m. when the torpedo struck? Were you awake or
I
sleeping?
was up on the bow, sleeping topside, because we take a Navy blanket, fold it, make a little sleeping bag out of it, and slip into that and take our clothes and shoes for a pillow. Well, I had to watch up on the bow in the Twin 20s at 4 to 8 in the morning. I lay down about 10 minutes to 12 because my buddy had brought up on the bow, had watch up on the bow. He's supposed to wake me up at around 4, quarter to 4. I laid there about 20 minutes and the ship blew up. But
What did it feel and sound like? Could you feel the did you know it was coming, the torpedo? Was there any warning bell or anything like that?
I woke up, I was flying through the air.
Wow.
Guide lines, cables on the edge of the ship. I was probably 12, 15 feet from them. When I woke up, or come down, I was grabbing hold of the cable. So I went up, I don't know how many feet, and went over so many feet.
And I'm told the ship sank in 12 minutes. So in that 12 minutes, once you realized you'd been torpedoed, what did you do?
Myself, and about 8 or 10, 12, I forgot how many.
Yeah.
We went aft, which is GQ, and the complete quarterdeck was engulfed with flames. So we couldn't go any further, so we went forward again. By that time, we could see the ship was definitely going to sink because it was lifting to the starboard side. Myself and 4, 5, 6 guys, I can't think. We threw off life rafts tied to the 8-inch gun turret. By that time, we couldn't hardly stand on deck, so behind the 8-inch guns, there was a big canvas bag of Cape Out life jackets. We cut them down and started passing those out. By the time I got one that was out, the ship was slipping to the starboard side quite a bit. A lot of people ask me, where were you on the ship when you jumped off? I didn't jump off the ship. The ship left me. So
Went down below and you left you in the water.
Pardon?
It went down and left you in the water.
Yeah.
With a lifeboat or a life jacket?
Life jacket.
Just a jacket.
Most of them I have just life jacket. There are very few of them got rafts.
Was there a lot of undertow from the ship going down?
No, I swam about probably 50 yards and saw it go down. I talked to survivors that had real close to it, and the way it went down, a big bobber in the water kept bouncing up and down. There was very little undertow, which just the last plunge, it just went down real slow.
So there you are in the dark, in the middle of mayhem, with who knows how many people. Did you try to get together, or what could you do at that hour?
Well, when it was dark, you couldn't see.
Yeah.
When it got daylight Monday morning, I was a group probably 75 or 80. I really couldn't tell because we were riding 8 to 12-foot swells.
Wow.
So the only time you could see anything is top of the swell. So you're either going up and down. And the man was injured in any way, shape, or form or burned from the fire. They didn't last long. But I was guessing about 75 or 80. But each day, the group kept getting smaller. When I was picked up, we had a group of about 8 to survive. Tuesday morning, or Tuesday afternoon roughly, noon or so, the ocean calmed down quite a bit, and that's when the sharks moved in. I see men taken from sharks from here to you. And they look you over, and why they took the next guy told me, I don't know. But the funny feeling when you're at night with the Cape Out life jacket, then your feet dangling, them sharks go by, you feel them go by, but you couldn't see them. So it's an awful funny feeling.
Whew. Funny's not the word. I get chills, of course, hearing about this. And the sharks were mixing in between you, touching your legs, and that. I mean, how did you sustain, knowing any second you could have, a shark could have taken you?
A lot of people ask me when the movie Jaws comes out, because the ship is mentioned in the movie Jaws.
It is, yeah.
A lot of people ask me about it, see. Well, to tell you the truth about it, I was so scared I couldn't wiggle a little finger. I seen dead men taken in the water by a shark. I seen men splash. I seen men still. There's no set pattern. None. I guess the sharks look good to you and you're hungry, that's it.
And did you have any food or water?
No.
For 4 days?
For 104 hours, from 10 after 12 Sunday night to about 7 o'clock Friday morning. No.
And you couldn't drink seawater because that would certainly kill you.
I've seen men drink seawater. They go down and say that they get up, go out of their head, they take their life jacket off, say they're going down below deck, get a cold drink of water. You do that, you gulp salt water on an empty stomach, you got 3, maybe 4 hours to live.
Yeah.
Your eyeballs pop out, foam comes to your mouth, and you go crazy. I've seen it.
You've seen it happen.
I've seen it happen.
Did you think someone was coming to rescue you?
No. Well, we was hoping so. A good example is Wednesday afternoon. It was getting dark. I was in a group of probably 12, 15. The man, I don't know who he was. He said, they aren't looking for us Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. They aren't looking for us. He said, hell, this is where we're going to die. And I said, I figured that too. Well, Thursday morning, about 11 o'clock, a PB-1 van toured us about us, and the rescue started.
So you were waiting to die.
Yeah, more or less, yeah.
How come it took so long if this was the USS Indianapolis with 1,100 men on board? Why did it take so long for somebody to come find you?
Well, they never did look for us. They found us strictly by our routine patrol bomber that found us. Somebody in late day goofed up. We were doing it at 6 o'clock in the morning for a gunnery run. We didn't show up, and the Navy officers, whoever he was, took us off the plotting board. Didn't even go looking for us.
Wow.
So there was a big Navy goof up.
18 years old, alone through night after night in the dark with sharks, and your friends, your colleagues, all perishing all around you.
Yeah.
We can't even relate to that. We can't.
A lot of people can't. I'm not trying to more horror, don't get me wrong, but it's something that I think about every day.
Do you?
Day I think about.
Do you dream about it?
Pardon?
Do you dream about it?
I did years ago.
Yeah.
My brother will tell you I slept in the same room with him, and I had some bad times. Yeah, I did years ago. Now, no. I'm glad to get over it.
When you were rescued, they put you, a boat came and they pulled you onto a boat?
5 destroyers picked us up.
Mm-hmm.
How bad shape I was in, the USS Doyle picked me up. Picked up 96 survivors. 3 of them died on the way to the hospital, and 5 of them died after we got there. That's how bad shape I was in.
Mm-hmm.
So I was really knocking the door pretty good. And then we went to 3 different locations. Some went to Samara, and one went directly to Guam.
Were you sent home after that then?
Yeah, we was home on third day survivors leave.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Leave?
Leave. Leave, that means 30 days home.
You went back into the service?
See, back time, you had that point to get out of service. Well, I was only in for a short period of time. So I had to go back to Detroit, and they stationed me down to Grosse Seal Navy Air Station outside Detroit.
Yes.
That's where I stayed for a year.
Oh, okay. So you didn't have to go back on a ship?
Oh, no.
That was nice of them.
The only way I'd go back on a ship if I asked for it.
I see.
That's what they told me.
Now, President Bush learned to fly there at Grosse Ile at that air base. Was he there when you were there?
Yeah.
Was he there when you were there or no?
Oh, no. That was way after.
Oh, okay. The President, George Herbert Walker Bush, who was an airman in the Second World War, he learned there too. Yeah. Do you? I don't mean to. Would you? Do you go on boats now? Do you go on cruises and that kind of thing?
I was for 12 years. I had 6 kids. I showed them, helped them all learn how to swim. I still like to swim, not now, but a few years ago.
Yeah.
No, it don't bother me to go. I like to be around water. I just kind of foolish, but
I guess that's why you went in the Navy, right?
West Junior swimming team when I was in high school. So I like to swim.
When you go for your reunion in Indianapolis, and you're with the 50 or so men who still come to the reunion, still able to be there, are there men among those 50 that you were close to in the water? Did you spend time talking? I mean,
they're both dead now. Joe Jacobon from New Jersey and Eric Anderson from California. We were good friends aboard the ship before it sank. All 3 of us survived. Mm-hmm. So each reunion, way back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, we were locked. In other words, we were together, all of them.
Yeah.
Real close friends, but they both passed away.
And in the water, did you pass the time by talking, or were you praying, or was it just too intense to even?
To a point, but most time, there ain't much you can say.
Yeah.
We try to encourage each other, not giving up. And also, we try to keep the people in one group. Sometimes our guy would try to swim out a little ways, and we dragged him back. And a few times in water, I went a little crazy, slashing around.
Sure.
Men pushed me away from the group because I was wailing.
Yeah.
You go in and out of consciousness. Or, in other words, it's kind of a funny.
Yeah.
It's hard to explain.
I'm sure. It's hard to comprehend, but
Okay.
we can't thank you enough for your service. That's a silly thing to say, but there are no words to express our thanks for what you went through, and glad to have you here in Michigan on Veterans Day.
So may I do that to me, thank you. But I just did my thing. I don't figure I'm a hero or no different than nobody else. Back then we didn't realize what we was doing so young.
Well, you still have that young glint in your eye, so thank you very much for being with us today, and for all the people watching on television and listening on radio across the state of Michigan. I'm sure there isn't a person who wouldn't agree with me that you are indeed a hero. Thank you very much. Veterans Day, Richard Thielen, survivor of the USS Indianapolis. It's Michael Patrick Shields. What do you think makes him a great coach? Because you've had coaches of your own.
Well, I think a great coach is measured in teaching kids the way of life, and it's just not football. And I think that's what D'Antonio is doing. He's teaching these kids how to go from an 18-year-old coming in to a 22-year-old man. And I think that it shows on the field when determination, don't give up, and discipline.
Hasn't been without its challenges last season and this season. I'm talking off the field.
Exactly, and that's the battle of being a coach. You have these young kids that, like I said, they're young, and they come out of places that do not have discipline and goals, and sometimes you have a few people that it takes a while for them to get it.
They don't seem to be too distracted, though, by players having to leave for a while, maybe to go to jail. The coach was gone with a heart attack. I mean, they seem focused, except for the blip at Iowa, which I thought was very unusual.
Well, it's like that in the NFL with men. You can't seem to be up every single Saturday.
Yeah.
And when you come in like Michigan State did, they were down, and then Iowa played a flawless game. That's a perfect ingredients for to be beat by that amount of points.
I used to talk to Gary Moeller because I produced a radio show. He was a regular guest.
Sure.
And Gary Moeller, who was the Wolverines coach, said to me one time, we've made it so difficult on these kids. They feel like if they lose one game, the season's over. And that's not what the collegiate football experience is supposed to be.
No, it's not. It's supposed to be learning, fun, goal setting, and that's pretty much the way it should be. If you lose 1 or 2 or 3 or even 4 or 5, it's not the end of the world. It's just a matter of, the season, having a great season, having fun, and really spending a lot of time with the guys on the team. It's a lot of learning and just being around other people.
For those of us who dream, we play the Madden game on PlayStation, right? We run the ball. What's it really like when that ball is either pitched to you or handed to you? What goes through your mind? What do you see?
Well, really what it comes down to is instinct. During the week, during the off season, you run so many plays that when you finally do get the ball in the games, it's more of an instinct. Your body, your mind, your vision kind of tells you what to do, and that's the difference between a good back and a bad back is instincts.
You stop thinking and
you either do it or you don't.
You ever had a wicked helmet-to-helmet crash?
Oh, absolutely. There was a couple times where. It took me a minute to get my vision correct.
To figure out which Big Ten team you were playing?
You started heading towards the wrong bench, and I remember I did that, and Danny Enos called me back and said, "You're going the wrong way." I'm like,
and the NFL experience was a hyper link up. Was it that much different?
Absolutely. I mean, by then you're playing with almost 11 men on the field that are all Americans. In college you may have 2 or 3 or 4 on the team. In high school you might have 1 or 2. But once you get to the NFL, it's pretty much you have all Americans all the way across the field. So the speed it's fast, it's strong, it's totally a different ballgame.
And look at you now, business executive, Tico Duckett Distributing. I see your name in a certain place that I'll leave unmentioned because it's very often in the men's room.
Well, my motto, Michael, is if you're peeing on me, it's all good. And let me explain myself. I sell janitorial supplies.
That's right.
So, in the men's room, we have urinal screens that say Tico Duckett Distributing or Duckett Brothers Distributing. And that means we're supplying that organization with their hand towels, their soap, the disinfectants, the machinery.
But I always feel a little guilty.
Well, please don't.
I don't aim at I don't aim at you, just so you know. Okay. Now he's a fancy dressed gentleman here, and there's a reason you're here today too. Lisa Wall is here from Lisa Wall Interior Design, and you're going to be showing him off Friday, huh?
Yes. Good morning, everyone. Tomorrow we welcome everyone to come out and participate in our great one-day charitable fashion extravaganza called Dress. It is benefiting St. Vincent Catholic Charities.
Mhm.
This is an all-day, all-star event. It's 5 hours. Our theme is 5 hourly fashion shows, 5 dance shows, 5 fabulous guest speakers.
Prize drawings.
Prize drawings, 5 hourly prize drawings.
And $5 salon services?
$5 salon
Huh.
services.
He can get a haircut.
We can do that.
And this is at the Turner Dodge House.
It is.
How much does it cost?
Well, everything is a donation.
Okay.
It's, $25 for general admission donation or $35 for VIP. VIP gets you into the Dublin Square room for
Yeah.
their delicious food, although there is food there on site for everyone.
It starts at 11:30 tomorrow.
It does.
And goes through 4:30, and then
Yes.
there's a reception at 7. This is at the Turner Dodge House.
Yes.
And you don't have to register ahead of time. You can just show up.
You can buy tickets at the door, yes.
And you're going to see a glitzy, I mean, it's a very unique event, a glitzy, glamorous fashion show.
It is something that we have not had in this era before, and I am so excited to be a part of it.
Well, thank you. You're going to be dressed in your best studs tomorrow, too, right?
You bet.
All right. This is at the Turner Dodge House tomorrow in the Lansing area from 11:30 till 4:30. It's called Dress. And you're very nicely dressed, both of you today.
www.dressevent.com.
Dressevent.com. Thank you very
Hey,
much.
thanks for having us, Michael.
You bet. We'll see you again soon. Next hour, we're going to save your marriage or make it a little bit better. Jay and Laura LaFoon will be here, and they are edutainers. And they're a married couple, and they're still married. So they go on the road and they do these date night events, and there's going to be one in Michigan on a Friday night, and so they make it fun. And, so, you don't have to tell anybody you're listening to turn up the radio because everybody can use a little marital advice from time to time, it would seem to me. Also, we're going to talk more about the battle in the Straits of Mackinac, where we've had 3 ferries for the longest time, the Star Line, the Arnold Line, and the Sheplers Line. And there seems to be a movement by the city council there to maybe squeeze out Sheplers, even though the mayor of the city of Mackinac Island told me a few days ago that's not their intent. They're just examining the service. The trick is the man who bought Arnold Line wants to merge with Star Line and make a deal with Mackinac Island that we will give you all the service you want, but you got to get the other guy out of there. We need a monopoly. That's what's happening right now. And so we're going to talk with the attorney for Sheplers on the situation right now and the service and the details like that. It's a legal matter, to be sure, and Jonathan Raven is an attorney from Fraser to Bilcock, Davis, and Dunlap. And, Counselor, welcome to the program.
Good morning, Michael Patrick. Congratulations on the new book.
Oh, thank you very much. That's very nice of you to invite yourself to the party in that way, and that's the name of the book. But the point of it is, maybe you saw that on Facebook, and there's an issue this morning having to do with Facebook. A West Michigan woman is out of a job. Apparently, she went on Facebook and called a coworker a liar. This is at Baker House Publishing Group, and the lady who was called a liar printed it out, showed it to the boss, and the woman who said that, who posted that on Facebook, was fired. If that woman walked into your office today at Fraser to Bilcock and said, Jonathan Raven, I was fired because I put something on Facebook, what recourse do I have? Would there be any?
Well, I would have to ask a number of questions and get the facts right. There are some key issues here. First of all, social networking doesn't give people carte blanche to say anything about anyone.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter what the medium is. Is the statement itself protected? And does the employer have a right to see the statement? And is the statement overly broad? If the employer hacked into the employee's Facebook page, might be a problem. Does the employer have the right to fire employees at will? Then it might not be a problem. But is this a part of a collective bargaining situation, a unionization drive? It could be a big problem. There's a case right now in Connecticut, just reported the other day in the New York Times, that the NLRB is actually going after an employer who has fired an employee for making statements during an organizing campaign. So there's a lot of different issues, and we have to take a look at the facts. This is a rapidly evolving area.
Is it different at all if I say to Amanda Wall, let's say, you're a liar, and she runs to the boss and says, Michael Patrick Shields called me a liar. And the boss says, oh, yeah, Michael Patrick Shields, you're fired. Is there any difference from that transaction than the one that happened on Facebook?
Well, first of all, you only say it to the other person. It isn't publishing it to a third person.
Okay.
So that might not be a problem. You might have other problems for bothering an employee, but it doesn't necessarily relate to the same issue as the Facebook or slanderous policy.
Okay, let me ask you this. I say to Amanda Wall, it's got to be you. I say, what did you do last night? And she says, I stayed home. And somebody says, oh, I saw Amanda Wall at the movies. And I stand up in the lunchroom and I say, in front of everyone, Amanda Wall, you're a liar. And she runs to the boss and says, he called me a liar in front of all those people. And I get fired, even though she did actually lie. What about that case? Is that any different than putting it on Facebook?
Well, if you're bothering employees and harassing them, especially if you're their boss, and doing so in front of other people, you might have a problem. And if your employer has a general right to terminate you for any reason, with or without cause, with or without notice, you'd be gone anyway.
So Facebook really is just a simple, another medium, another way of writing a note.
That's correct. It doesn't really matter. I mean, social networking is such a rapidly growing thing, and a lot of people, young people, a generational thing, without a lot of experience or even sophistication on some of the more important issues of protected speech versus unprotected speech, they think they can slap anything up there, even about themselves, and it later on causes them problems. So you really have to, the barriers to distribution of statements are down now. You can make a simple statement, it can go worldwide, more people see it, there's more exposure, there's more chance to get into trouble if the statement itself is not protected.
And there is no he said, she said in Facebook because it's right there, documented, the time you sent it, the date, and everything else.
It never goes away. People really need to be careful what they put up there. We have a broad right to free speech in this country. By the way, I can't let Veterans Day go by without saluting our veterans who have sacrificed for our rights to have these free speech rights. So
good point.
We still have to look at what the limits of free speech are.
Well, you have the freedom to speak, but that doesn't mean there aren't consequences if you use that freedom, right?
If you abuse that freedom, there are consequences. It's long established in this country what the role of an employer is vis-a-vis that free speech, what you can say about your employer. There are limits to that, but generally you can say things about your employer if they're true.
And that's a whole different matter because depends on someone's definition of the truth, it sounds like. Jonathan Raven, Fraser Trebilcock, Davis and Dunlap, PC, the super lawyer, with us this morning. Thank you very much, and thank you to the veterans who are listening today on this Veterans Day. Television viewers, thanks for being with us this morning. Radio listeners, stay where you are. We're going to help your marriage next hour, and we're going to find out why terrorists are trying to blow up cargo planes. And remember, cargo is carried on commercial airlines, too. It's Michael Patrick Shields. Stay tuned for that.